So my name is Iman Ghanizada. Great to see everyone in the in the audience. And what I run is I run this solution at Google Cloud we call Autonomic Security Operations. And effectively, what it is, it's a solution for SOC transformation. And the TLDR of it is we've built a framework called Continuous Detection and Response, and we've built this solution called ASO. And we work with our clients to help them understand how they can use commercial products, use our capabilities like Chronicle Security Operations, Mandiant, everything in between, and use this CDCR framework to try to become more like a software engineering or security engineering security operations practice. So it's shifting from, legacy tier 1 through 3 security operations to what I call CDCR, or it's kind of like CI/CD, so that customers can hopefully try to become more like Google and more like a security engineering company, which both of you are from. So anyways, Nick, I want to hand it off to you because you are the guru that is actually probably one of the big reasons why I'm here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Iman, so much. Iman and I have known each other for a number of years now. It was actually a blind LinkedIn request. Hey, man, I want to move to California. Can we connect and talk about security? And here we are 7 years later. So yeah, I'm Nick. I head up corporate security and a couple other areas at Snap Inc., which is Snapchat, of course, for the world. I've had a lot of experience around production security and cloud security over the last half decade. I'm actually one of the advisors at Deepfence, helping with the product story, as well as technical developments. I've also taught about these topics on Udacity. I have a course on cloud native security you could check out as part of their nano degree. And I'm also working on a technical book about cloud native security that'll come out in Q4 of this year. So with that, I want to hand it over to the man, the legend, the Sandeep, founder and CEO at Deepfence.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I do feel legendary right after you said that. So, Iman, thank you so much for being here. I just looked at your work on ASO, such a state-of-the-art work, really. Looking forward to discuss deeper, today. Nick, of course, thank you so much for doing all of that. Looking forward to your book as well in Q4. For everyone, I'm the co-founder and CEO with Deepfence. Deepfence essentially is the company behind Threat Mapper, the fastest growing and soon to be the most widely deployed CNAPP platform. We're rooted in open source. We believe security is a fundamental right. And, that's why we're sort of the open source first company. So such an honor to be here with Iman and Nick and, talking to all of you.
This next question, I know I've talked to you both to some extent about CDCR, but this kind of is a good segue because we have this mentality where today in the industry, most customers have built these very large static SIM environments that consumes data, hopefully consumes the right data, probably doesn't, probably is missing half of the data that they should be consuming, then probably doesn't have the right alerts configured for that data, and then probably doesn't have the right automations, if any, for those alerts, and then probably has no way to actually drive continuous feedback with the development teams. This is where CDCR comes into play. CDCR is this idea that we created, which is basically, let's say I'm a co-founder, I'm Sandeep, and I have this product I want to build. I have this idea of how I want to build this product. It's great. This product, now I start to build some features. I have this features, now I start to build infrastructure and, do CI/CD, and I've got this dev, test, and production, and this deployment pipeline. And then eventually, when I'm a Series C or Series D company, I have a security operations practice, and I'm probably hiring security engineers if I'm cloud native. If I'm an old enterprise, I have a SOC. This methodology, old school, didn't really scale. It doesn't allow security operations teams to do DNR effectively. I mean, most people have a 90% level of false positive rate in their infrastructure. So the whole idea with CDCR is this. If you take CI/CD, build, ship, deploy, operate, there needs to be a specific framework that is contextually created for detection and response. So CDCR is three things. It's, do I have the right visibility of my data? Do I have the right analytics to detect attacks on that visibility? Do I have the right automation to respond to those analytics? And am I closing off the feedback loop by actually driving upstream improvement with my CI/CD, with my development teams? Most people are missing that last one altogether. So when customers start to shift to CDCR, the idea is instead of having a legacy tiered SOC, start to format your team. And we have all this content out there. We could talk about this forever. All this content out there around take your legacy environment and start to, as you explore new technologies and tools and you want to have a fresh chance of modernizing your SIM infrastructure and all that, also consider modernizing your teams around the CDCR deployment process. And as you build and deploy things into this new environment, instead of just taking all that tech debt that you built with Splunk or whoever, just migrating all of your alerts and use cases and all that, start with automation first and start with toil first. Don't migrate your most risky use cases. Migrate the things that are taking up the most time in your life. Start to build this whole deployment pipeline around toil. And as you start to build and migrate more toil-based workloads in here, then when you start to actually build the use cases that you actually need to protect your business on, you start to migrate this, you've hopefully automated away a lot of the toil so that your team can start to build their new pipelines around the active threats of the organization so that they can accurately, effectively, efficiently respond to threats in a continuous deployment pipeline manner. So the only message I have here is really is that for Kubernetes, it's paramount. There is no, I observe logs, I go and I find an attacker, I neutralize them. It has to be continuous. Without the continuous aspect of it, you just have to rely on what your cloud provider gives to you, what your vendors, products hopefully give to you, and hopefully, what your development teams have, built with respect to configuration and their infrastructure from a security perspective.
Yeah, Iman, in fact, adding to that, I was looking at the article you wrote, I think, with Ivan, right? Ivan, yeah, on Google Autonomic Security Operations, and how it sort of uses MITRE TTPs and essentially sort of maps it back. I think that's the way we were thinking about the log question earlier. Remember, I think it implements a lot of those things already. The Google Autonomic Security Operations seems super cool, super state of the art. I was just sort of reading about it before hopping onto this call. I think a lot of what you're saying, I think, is sort of already implemented within Google ASO, really, right? With things like Chronicle, Simplify, and Security Command Center, and probably taking feeds from VirusTotal and other feeds as well, really, right? So altogether, I think it does cover a lot of what we were talking about earlier, isn't it? The log verbosity bit. Am I right in inferring that?
Yeah, it's two parts. As a solution and everything we do from a technology perspective, we're hoping that our product managers and our product engineering teams can start to try to build more of that automation in our platforms and everything, which we're doing with the acquisitions of Mandy and with all the new features that are coming on board. But ASO really on the right side, and the majority of what ASO is it's actually it's a mindset shift. It's a methodology and it's a framework. And it's a different way of approaching a problem. So like Nick said, without the threat modeling, without understanding the abuse cases, you might be having a pointless detection and response process. And so this is kind of flipping the pyramid around and saying, look, in order to build the use cases in security operations, and again, this isn't anything new. Google's been doing this for 10 years. Netflix did this with their SOC-less model. Nick is doing it. His detection and response team followed this methodology. But it's been really challenging for a lot of people to say, I want to do what Netflix does. I want to do what Google does, because they're not security engineering company. So it's a way for people to think that way with commercial tools and hopefully shift to becoming more like a software engineering team. And that requires a total shift in mindset more than it is just technologies. Your technologies are just tools. And the reason why developers created Kubernetes is because they realized that legacy infrastructure tools just didn't cut it for them. Their process got adapted. And when they started following agile software development and everything else, naturally that created to the development of all these tools and whatnot.
Watch the full webinar at deepfence.io/resources.